Hello and welcome to the Radical Podcast, inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root. We explore the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
This season is all about divination, tarot, and the power held within our intuition. This is The Radical with Nicole and Christina, the two metaphysical girls in the material world.
Hello, welcome to the Radical Podcast. This is Christina.
And I'm Nicole.
This week we're talking about the planet Jupiter. I'm going to talk about some science facts, and then we're going to get into some metaphysical musings on Jupiter. I'm going to jump right in with my list. First, we're going to talk about Jupiter, the planet. This is going back, again, dipping into our podcast on the personalities of the planets. I had so much fun doing that. And it was in that podcast that I said, Nicole, we have to do each planet individually because there's so much to talk about each one.
And here we are.
Yes. Jupiter is a gas giant. Jupiter has the fastest rotation. One day on Jupiter is a little more than 10 hours long. It spins so fast on its axis. Oh, and I'm taking these notes from that podcast. Some of this might sound familiar, listeners, if you just listened to that one and now you're listening to this one. But the outer atmosphere is mostly hydrogen and helium with small amounts of water droplets, ice crystals, ammonia crystals, and other elements. It's those clouds that we see. It's the clouds that create the shades of white, orange, brown, and red. And it's the interaction of all those elements with sunlight that creates all those beautiful colors. You know how there's light colored bands and dark colored bands on Jupiter? If you think about Jupiter in your mind, the belts are the dark colored bands and the zones are the light colored bands, and they go in opposite directions. I've seen, there's such amazing videos on YouTube of this. We have so many beautiful images of Jupiter and so much information about Jupiter right now that you could go down a rabbit hole learning so much about this. It was so fascinating. But they circulate in opposite directions, including the Great Red Spot. All of that is weather. It's all clouds and weather. The Great Red Spot is a massive hurricane that's been raging since we discovered it about 300 years ago. And well before then. I love the story about Jupiter forming as a planet, that when the solar system was young and the sun was coming together and then all the debris was floating around and the debris started to bounce off each other and stick to each other and then start spinning and then start drawing in more stuff around it, that Jupiter was like a wrecking ball of of gravity and heat and energy coming in towards our sun and in towards the rocky planets, but Saturn pulled it back, and Saturn and Jupiter kind of stabilized each other where they sit now in our solar system. Another wonderful thing about Jupiter and about understanding more about its personality is because of where it is and how massive it does act as like a vacuum in pulling in debris that might be meant for the inner planets, asteroids and comets. Jupiter will pull them in and keep us safe and protect us. But again, in that Jupiter tone, sometimes Jupiter is so big and barreling around the way it does, it might actually knock some things out of orbit into in towards the inner planets. It's kind of a sometimes it's all good, but there's always a little bit of just like, oops, sorry, that asteroid's coming at you. I missed that one. But the massive gravity of Jupiter affects everything around it. including the rotation of the sun. Jupiter has a huge radiation belt. And I just saw this on a video I watched today that Jupiter gives off more heat than it absorbs from the sun because of its internal elemental makeup. And that's why it has such amazingly beautiful clouds, because you need heat to have weather. And there's a lot of heat on Jupiter, a lot of heat. It has a massive magnetic field, and that radiation in that magnetic field also, along with Jupiter's gravity, helps keep us safe, these internal planets closer to the sun, because Jupiter is out there policing up all this loose matter, keeping it from flying in towards us. But the massive magnetic field for Jupiter is from the metallic liquid hydrogen and its crazy fast rotation. It's very magnetized. Jupiter has 4 rings. Not as famous as Saturn's rings, but it does have 4 rings. They're just a blue, and they have like a reddish hue. So they're not made of all ice like Saturn's. So they're not as reflective and they're not as visible. But it certainly has some rings. One of the main features of Jupiter are the moons. 95 moons with known orbits. 72 have received permanent designations, and 57 have been named.
Wow.
I don't even know. We'd have to do a whole season on the moons of Jupiter. We couldn't even get them all in one podcast. Jupiter orbits the sun in 11 years, 11.87 Earth years to be exact. The Chinese astrology has based their 12-month 12 animal astrology and zodiac based on the orbit of Jupiter. The ancient Chinese astronomers have named Jupiter the year star, and that's its name. Jupiter is one of the brightest objects in the sky, easily visible with the naked eye. And with a little binocular, or with like a little telescope and maybe some good binoculars, you can see Jupiter even better with 4 of its largest moons.
That's so cool.
Yeah, Jupiter has been a huge, huge part of astrology in all the cultures on Earth, because it's so big, it's so consistent, and it has a 12-year. So it's an outer planet, but it still is close enough to us that it can have a little more effect on us, I guess is how I see it. Moving into Jupiter correspondences, magical and metaphysical correspondences. The astrological symbol for Jupiter, it looks like a very stylized 4, number 4, and that's representing a lightning bolt, but also a Z for the Greek god Zeus. Jupiter is the Roman god, and Zeus is the Greek god, right? I think so. I think, Nicole, you have notes on that going down. The Jupiter rules the signs of Sagittarius and Pisces, classically. Pisces' modern planet is Neptune. Numerology, the number 3 is associated with Jupiter. In numerology, the number 3 is associated with creativity, communication, social skills, and optimism. It represents charismatic, expressive, and joyful energy. And then look at this. People born on the 3rd, 12th, 21st, and 30th of any month are tagged as number 3 people ruled by the planet Jupiter.
That's fun.
Yeah. The element for Jupiter in Western astrology is fire. In Chinese astrology is wood. The day of the week is Thursday. Oh, I had fun looking at colors for this planet, because I like to look at the colors of Jupiter as like the literal colors of Jupiter, like the burnt orange and the white and the different colors of the bands. But generally, because Jupiter's royal status, there is also deep purple and royal blue, but also gold and golden orange. In Vedic astrology, yellow for Jupiter. In Vedic astrology, yellow, gold, and golden orange. The metal is tin. I remember talking about tin for Jupiter and being like, huh, tin doesn't seem as like interesting as some of the other metals out there, but it is. In alchemy, the symbol for tin is the symbol for Jupiter, and it's sometimes called the breath of life. It connects tin to the ideas of breath, vitality, and expansion. And another thing about tin is that it represents the idea that the whole is stronger than its individual parts, which is a key concept in alchemy, wholeness and completion. And that's why that's also tied to Jupiter. Stones. So the stones and crystals associated with Jupiter, you can go back to the colors. We have amethyst, sapphire, lapis lazuli for wisdom, and citrine, that beautiful yellow color. But every time I typed in anything about crystals in Jupiter, it kept coming up yellow sapphire for Vedic astrology. And there's a very specific story about why yellow sapphire goes with Jupiter. And if that sparks any interest to you listeners, go look it up. It's a fascinating story. I did not get into it here because I didn't want to go off on too many tangents while we were staying focused on Jupiter, but yellow sapphire for Jupiter, along with amethyst and sapphire and the beautiful blue and yellow stones. Jupiter can be associated with the liver, pancreas, thighs, and hips. We're talking about the digestive systems, metabolism, and also general nourishment. I looked up, it's associated with the sanguine humor. Is that how you say that? Sanguine? I'm not 100% sure what that means. I looked it up. It means it's a personality that has a cheerful, optimistic, sociable personality, but also a physical appearance is ruddy with the healthy reddish color. I was like, yeah, that's a Jupiter energy right there.
Sanguine. Is that what you said? I don't know.
I said sanguine. Sanguine sounds better. Chakra, Manipura solar plexus. I feel that all day, every day for Jupiter. But that's my opinion. Listeners, you might have another opinion. Email us, send us a note, and tell us what you think. But that's like a quick list. Well, quick. That's an abbreviated list with not too many tangents on Jupiter as a planet and some of the correspondences, magical and metaphysical for Jupiter.
So it is one of the traditional 7 planets, visible without a telescope, but you get more detail if you do use a telescope. As an outer planet beyond the asteroid belt, its influence is more so on the collective, kind of like we talked about with Pluto, generational themes and trends. Jupiter is currently in Cancer, where it is exalted. It's been there since June 9th of 2025, and it will stay there through June 30th, 2026. So just slightly over 1 year, because it does retrograde. So that kind of plays into the timing. Jupiter in Cancer gives us the following themes and energies: embodied learning. It brings up ancestry and archives, so things from the past, but dealing with our family. That's kind of Cancer's realm. Tending to our home and cultivating safety, tending to our crab shell, as well as devotion, softness, sweetness, and nurturance, especially towards ourselves. And I feel like the Saturn return gets a lot of hype, but we do experience Jupiter returns. My Black Moon astrology deck has a card for the Jupiter return, which happens about every 12 years, just slightly less. Christina said, I did the math also, 11.87 years or 4,330 33 days.
Nice. 12 years isn't that long. Like, we can see like Jupiter as a outer planet, but it still feels very close to me. Very
Yes.
close. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so we'll experience many of these Jupiter returns in our life. My most recent one was in 2022, and Jupiter made its exact conjunction to my natal Jupiter in April rather than July, but close enough. When we have a Jupiter return, it is said to be a time where blessings flow towards us with ease, and we may experience auspicious events and occurrences or periods of good luck.
I read it that it's when you turn 12, 24, 36, right? It's every 12 years from your birth, because Jupiter is that steady. Like you said, it's not quite 12, it's right there, but generally right in there is your Jupiter return. So look, check check to see how old you are, listeners, and then see when your next Jupiter return is.
So, Christina mentioned that the Greek counterpart to the Roman Jupiter is Zeus. And in Norse mythology, the counterpart is the god Odin, said to be the god of the sky, the thunder, weather, and storms. I didn't know all that about Jupiter's weather, and you need heat for weather. So that is a lovely connection there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you saw my note that the planetary symbol for Jupiter looks like a fancy four,
No,
but we
I
both
just said
described it like that. Like, I didn't see that on the internet. That was just like from my brain. So that's really funny to me that we described it the
that's
same
when I
way
that's all
as
I
a
see when I
fancy
look at
four.
it, as a fancy four.
According to NASA, they say it is the initial letter of Zeus with a line drawn through it to indicate its abbreviation.
I guess that could be like, that's a Z, right? Like that would. Now all I see is 24.
It does kind of look like a two with a line through
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the base of the two, but
Mm-hmm.
the domicile, like Christina mentioned, Jupiter's at home in Sagittarius and Pisces, therefore making the detriment placements Gemini and Virgo. Exalted in Cancer, where Jupiter resides today, and its fall is the opposition sign Capricorn. The astrological house, the ninth house, Sagittarius's ninth house of long distance, travel, spirituality, metaphysics, and higher education, to name just a few themes of that house. And then the mode and the element, mutable fire, coming from Sagittarius, or mutable water from Pisces.
Well, that's right. It is mutable. So, okay, that's another commonality there. They're both mutable.
Jupiter, I was thinking in my head at making sure Pisces was mutable water, but
It is. It's the
yes, it
last.
is.
It's the end. The end. The end. The end of the
It's
whole
right
year.
before
Yeah.
Aries. Yes. So Jupiter in Sagittarius, or when Jupiter is in Sagittarius, the energy is expansive like fire. In particular, when it comes to the Sagittarian realms of travel, adventure, exploring, and learning. When Jupiter is in Pisces, the deep waters of Pisces, the energy is more so about deep empathy and compassion, creativity, spirituality, and psychic senses, or our clairs, our clairvoyance, clairsentience, and so on. And I was getting the cards out for my Black Moon astrology deck for Jupiter in the ninth house, and I realized They were the messages from the universe just a couple episodes ago
Yeah,
in our 5, 6, and 7 of Cups. So I was like, oh, they've
we've
already made
had
themselves known.
we've had a lot of Jupiter influence in our message from the universe. Or I always notice when Jupiter influences, but Jupiter has been sending us messages for sure.
Yes. So we have been acquainted already with these cards. The teachings, archetype, and energy of Jupiter include abundance, luck, good fortune, generosity, joy. You'll often hear Jupiter referred to as the great benefic, also associated with positivity, blessings, gratitude, openness, and purpose. I also learned and wrote down in my notes that Jupiter casts off more heat than it takes in from the sun. So Christina and I are very much of the same mind. Jupiter is the great expander. So it's associated with growth, very much a Sagittarian ninth house theme as well. And I wrote this on Substack a couple months ago. I was thinking about Jupiter and its relationship to light. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces, like we said, and these zodiac signs include 2 of the 4 solar holidays, both of which indicate growing periods of daylight.
Mm-hmm.
The winter solstice at the end of Sagittarius season, and also in Pisces season, we have the spring equinox. And I was thinking about how, because of its relationship to light, it makes sense that Jupiter is a young planet. But what was so striking to me was, even though Jupiter is the largest young planet in our solar system, it functions best, it's exalted in the yin environment of Cancer.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the tarot cards shortly, but this to me was sort of like a reminder of, and the message that we find in the Four of Swords card, which is Jupiter and Libra. And that is something our culture has completely forgotten and just ignores, but that rest and doing nothing are absolutely critical to our well-being, to our creative process.
And Cancer is a cardinal sign. It's the first sign after the summer solstice. You're talking about relationship to light. Cancer is at the summer solstice, and it is the cardinal for that season. And that is where Jupiter is
thriving. So there is a lot of daylight, but Cancer is still a yin sign. So a lot of metaphor and meaning in that. Jupiterian shadows, we could think about, if we are ever expanding, are we not also spreading ourselves too thin? And if we're ever exploring, what about our roots and our sense of being grounded? What about our little crab shell, our home? There could also be a sense with Jupiter's shadow with becoming lax or complacent or taking things for granted. So there are 6 tarot cards tied to Jupiter. And the first one is from the major arcana. And we'll talk way more about it next week.
Yes,
because
I'm very excited.
Next week is our podcast dedicated to this card, but it's card number 10, the Wheel of Fortune. And just in a few brief words, this card deals with fate, destiny, and karma.
I love getting the Wheel of Fortune. I can't wait to share the cards from my decks that I have. especially the different reimaginings of the wheel, especially my Secrets of the Witch's Garden one. It is fantastic. I can't wait to share those with everybody.
And then we have 5 from the minor arcana. So we'll start with the fire element. 6 of Wands. This is Jupiter in Leo. So we have covered this card in a previous podcast. It is, according to Aleister Crowley, the Lord of Victory. We see the figure on horseback with a victory wreath on one of the 6 wands. We can think about the heart of Leo and the blessings of Jupiter when we look at this card. And this is the energy of radiance. We can think about creative expansion, public recognition, and being seen when we get this card.
I remember so much about calling this the confetti card. I think it was in my Sacred She. We talked about the confetti, and we made the point that sometimes we're throwing the confetti. Sometimes we're receiving the confetti, and sometimes we have to throw our own confetti. We have to celebrate ourselves. When you look at that card, it's interesting that you don't always relate to the character that's on the horse, shall we say. Sometimes you're like the one who is, paying attention to what that person is doing. But sometimes you are the central character, and sometimes you're the only character. But that card, it makes me think of community and how we do need community. We've got to find our community. We need to cheer on our community, take care of each other.
The next card is the 2 of Pentacles, and this is Jupiter in Capricorn. The astrological dignity, or the astrological essential dignity, is fall. This card conveys balance and equilibrium. We have a figure holding 2 pentacles, and there's the infinity sign around the 2 pentacles. And we haven't talked about this card yet, but I wrote down, perhaps because this is the fall dignity, maybe we can make sense of this card because of Jupiter's wanting to expand. When we talk about balance and equilibrium, there's like limits inherent in that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Jupiter doesn't like those restrictions. But we'll see. We'll see.
I read something about this card once, and the 2 was a sign of amplification or doubling your pentacles. Like the juggler had 1, now they have 2. I can see that clear when I think about Jupiter's influence, but then when you think about Jupiter in Capricorn, now I think it's about choosing. Because that's also that this card can also be choose, like you're choosing between 2. And I don't know if the Jupiter energy is like you can only have one of these. Jupiter energy is like we should have both of these. So that could be it as well.
The next card, 4 of Swords, Jupiter in Libra. Crowley's hermetic title for this card, Lord of Truce. We have a figure sleeping. It is so still, you get possible death vibes. In our podcast on the 2, 3, and 4 of Swords, we considered the equilibrium of Libra and the opportunity of Jupiter. In other words, taking the opportunity to rest and restore your inner balance. Also, the realignment of Libra and the spirituality of Jupiter. Recalibrating ourselves with the help of a spiritual practice. Or just sleeping. To me, this card, like the nickname in my head when I see it is Shavasana.
Yeah.
Which is Sanskrit for corpse.
When we just did this card not that long ago, it was just Libra not that long ago, and I was doing the history research on this card, and it was talking about the Knights Templars. It was talking about the stone effigies, the placement of the hands. To me, that's like a it's a grave. It's a stone effigy. And then there's the stained glass window with the monk, you know, helping the younger generation. Everything about this card I don't is hard for me to manage. I like the imagery on all my other cards. I relate to it better than I do with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And Nicole has been having a moment with the Judgment card. Well, Nicole, we have found the card. I have found the card that I will put in the do-over pile with your Judgment card. It's the Four of Swords for me. Because I love everything about the message of this card. The message of this card is so important to us. You've got the Jupiter, you know, the equilibrium of Libra, opportunities of Jupiter, rest, do nothing, take care of yourself mentally. And when I look at the imagery of this card in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, I don't get any of that. I see something very different when I look at that card. I would love the opportunity to make this card, you know, to do a do-over, reimagining. And I loved the Secrets of the Witch's Garden, not just because there was a cat on this card in when we did that episode, but because it was also, she was just resting.
Yeah.
And it looked restful. It looked peaceful. It looked like self-care. I had some really strong feelings about the Four of Swords. And I just said to you, Nicole, I'm like, well, we'll find the card that I'm ready to do over.
Throw in the trash can.
Throw it in the trash can. And I was like, oh, here it is. This is it. This is it. This card to me, this is it. I would change. I would use different symbols to project the astrological meaning behind this card very differently. The Four of Swords.
Our next card is the Eight of Swords, Jupiter in Gemini. And Jupiter is in detriment in the zodiac sign of Gemini. And this card is a bound figure that has also sort of this blindfold on. 8 swords surround this person. They're all stuck in the ground. It gives a definite sense of feeling trapped, stuck, and restricted, which boundless and expansive Jupiter certainly cannot enjoy. Mm-hmm. I wrote, in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck with her arms bound, you could easily see why Jupiter would be experiencing detriment.
So when I look at this card, each one of those swords is a truth bomb dropping down around this figure. And this figure has all this information at their fingertips, but they haven't processed it yet. And the eyes are covered because that process needs to happen internally. You can't read more about how to make up your mind or how to make a decision. We've got to digest it and we've got to process it inside. And also, you have all the information you need. The hands are bound. Stop researching. You need to take the information you have and make the best decision you can with what you have right now. But that's when I see this card, that's like how I feel. It's like, you can't ignore the swords. You know now. What are you going to do about it? You have to process that information. You have to make that decision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a powerful card. I mean, I like it. I know what it means to me when I see it. It's like that information paralysis.
Yeah, analysis paralysis.
Yes. You've got to put your hands down and you got to cover your eyes. You have to stop. You've got to make a decision. You've got to make a move. You can't just stand there and let all the truth bombs, swords drop around you. You've got to make a decision.
Our final Jupiter card The Nine of Cups. This is Jupiter in Pisces, one of its homes.
Mm-hmm.
Jupiter is domiciled in Pisces and Sagittarius, but this card is Pisces. I often hear this card referred to as the wish come true or the wishes fulfilled card.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like we talked about last week, like, is 9 the end of the story or is the 10? And this is definitely a card that shows the culmination and abundance and joy. There's a
Mm-hmm.
figure sitting on a bench in front of 9 cups, looking pleased, satisfied, happy. So it's kind of like, what more could you want? All your wishes have been fulfilled.
I could take a note from this. I wrote self-satisfied figure on this card. To be, it's to me, the cups are on display. And I think it's good for us to be proud of our accomplishments. It's good for us to be aware of how far we've come, how much we've grown emotionally, how we've been balancing our mind and we've been balancing our work and our play. When I see this card, I think about that. And that's like that wish fulfilled. It's that the one of the readings for this card is like the answer is just yes. You'll get what you want. Yes. But I also think that I do like to display my cups of like my achievements sometimes, but also there's an element to this is that living well and doing the work of making your mindful decisions every day is also 9 of cups. That's also you just showing up as you are and being who you are and making the choices you're making to keep your emotional self balanced and your emotional self true to what you need and what you see in the world. And that's like what I see when I see this card as well. That whatever the cups is for you right now, is it your love life? Is it your mental health? Is it your intuitive development? You know what I mean? Like it's good to be able to show off those cups, but also, what do they say? The best thing is living well. The not the best revenge. Is that what it is? The best revenge is living well.
That's the saying.
But I
Yeah.
but I
I
feel like
know, like, we don't vibe with that
no,
energy,
no.
but
I want to say like one of the best ways to flex. No, not even that. I don't even know how I'm trying to say it. It's just like making those decisions every day and showing up and being your best every day is the way to be in that 9 of cups energy as well. You don't save it for special occasions. You don't save it for bragging about your accomplishments when you're together with your friends. Like every day, every choice that you make is you making is making choices to move the world in the direction that you want to live in. You want to live in this world, every day you make that choice by what you're doing. I kind of see that as the 9 of cups around you is right. That's like your 9 of cups is everything that surrounds you, the choices you're making, how you're living.
yeah, I have two things coming to mind. So what entered my mind when you were saying all that was the phrase the inner matches the outer. And you said it before we hit record because we have both, once again, of the same mind, been talking about doing like a winter cleaning
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
going through our closets. And there's and I've done a bookshelf in my office, and I finally am parting ways with some things I've been holding on to for the wrong reasons. And now I just feel like it's energetically very pleasing to me. And it's a reflection of, how did you say it, Christina?
Well ordered mind. A well
Yes,
ordered, well balanced mind.
yes. And I think the second thing that came to mind is like when you are living in Nine of Cups energy is And so it's not a living your best life is the best revenge. Like, we'll throw that in the trash can.
Yeah.
But it's like living your best life and taking care of like your inner emotional and mental health needs is like your best suit of armor and your best suit of resilience. So then
Mm-hmm.
when things do come your way that are like maybe not so much in the 9 of Cups energy, they roll off you
Mm-hmm.
easier because you have that emotional well-being and you have ordered your life and your surroundings to match, inner and outer match.
Mm-hmm.
Your well-ordered mind is part of your existence on the outside.
So in that card, you see the cups up on the table, and then I'm like, it in my head, I'm like, are they on display? And now I'm like, maybe that's like that's like he's giving them away. Like they're maybe it's not about maybe what says more about like the richness of our 9 of Cups energy, like our emotional and mental, well-being and balance is not about what we have, but about what we're willing to give away. Because I don't see him like the energy of the card is not grasping at these cups.
Right. And it's kind of like when we talked about
I'm trying. We have to look,
Dr. David Hawkins
and
and
we haven't done this one yet, have we? No, we haven't.
when you start living at the vibrations of gratitude and joy and love, that grasping naturally falls away because those belong to things like greed and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you are living at a higher vibrational state, it's sort of like you naturally don't grasp and you become more generous, just like
Yeah.
Jupiter. You become more sharing
Yes.
and expansive and optimistic.
Yeah. And we did do this card. I feel different about it now that I'm looking at it from Jupiter's point of view. Before I was looking at it in the tarot point of view, where it fit into the arcana and where it fit into the hero's journey. But this has been really like to look at it through the lens of Jupiter. I see it very differently now. Not very differently, but I see it in another um way, which I like.
Jupiter in Pisces is my natal placement, which is really fun. Um, so in my mind, I don't know if I've made up this like, let's have a tarot card birth chart. I don't know if that's a thing or if I made that up, but we've been talking about it a lot. So I like from what I'm realizing is there's two possible approaches, maybe
Mhm.
more. But the if you just literally take your planet and sign placement. So for me, Jupiter in Pisces would be the 9 of Cups. But with the decans, if we take the degree of our placement and match it to the decan. So for me, this is going to fall in the third Pisces decan based on my degrees. Um, so then it would be the 10 of Cups if I go by the degree of my placement rather than just the placement itself. And we talked about this back, I think, in our Pisces episode. But what I wrote down then was people who have a Jupiter in Pisces placement have the gift of bridging the metaphysical with the physical and choose to know themselves deeper through a spiritual practice, which makes so much sense to me now, knowing that, Jupiter has basically 2 domiciles.
Mhm.
And we know more, or I know more, about how the planets affect the expression of the zodiac sign. And so when we have Jupiter in Pisces versus Sagittarius, where's my note? It's the energy of Jupiter in Pisces expresses with more spirituality and
Mm-hmm.
psychic ability and more empathy and compassion. So, reading that, revisiting that note, I was like, oh, of course. But of
Yeah.
course.
I like it. I enjoy thoroughly understanding the classic placements of the classic assignment of the planets and the modern. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know both of them. My Jupiter is in Aries at 20 degrees in the 11th house. But so Jupiter in Aries at 20 degrees would put that in the third decan. So that is the Four of Wands. But there is no other Jupiter in Aries card. There's only Mars in Aries, Sun in Aries, and Venus in Aries. So I would have to use the decan
I understand
for
what you're
that
saying.
card. Yeah. So sometimes, listeners, you'll be in Nicole's situation where there is a planet placement and a decan placement, but then sometimes Jupiter isn't in that part of the Wands story. Jupiter is in the Six of Wands, and that's the only place it is in Wands, in the Six, which is fascinating. I like having Jupiter in Aries. It's a strong placement. I feel like that has given me a lot of energy and drive. I know I'm an optimist. I know I am. I've said this to you a few times, Nicole, when I've been doing paperwork and doing stuff with like my just my life. And I'm like, I do believe I am optimistic. I do believe things are going to happen the way they're supposed to happen. Like, I know I'm an optimist. I love having that spirit of the adventure and being and just having the ability, I guess that is the optimist, but also having the experiences that I have to know that I can do it, that I can take this action, that I can have this potential, that I can do this. And that has a lot to do with also my military career, which I'm sure Jupiter and Aries assisted me with, because I said this in the other podcast. I'm like, it certainly wasn't my Gemini energy that got me through 20 years in the military. It was definitely, that's not talkative, bubbly, and scattered is not good energy when you're in that type of like strict hierarchical communities. But I love also the 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 fierce desire for freedom, need for freedom,
You
independence
have
and freedom.
you have the fiery Jupiter expression, and I have the watery
Yes.
Jupiter expression.
See, isn't that amazing? I love that we can see that now, that we can work through all of this information and work through all of this and then come to it where it is in our birth charts. And then it's like reading the book. It's like reading the story and getting to the next chapter and finding out another piece of information about the expression of these planets and the energy and the association and the zodiac signs. I love it. I'm so glad we're doing this, Nicole. This podcast is really working out for me.
I think I think also what this podcast shows is, at least for me, I need to approach this information from multiple
Mm-hmm.
angles,
Yes.
multiple ways, multiple perspectives, and like through many iterations. Like
Yes.
there's no way, in my opinion, to just like learn it all with one
Yeah.
pass. It gets, with each pass, there's a new connection, there's more meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And with Jupiter in Cancer right now, it's all about embodied learning.
Mm-hmm. I love it. That's all I'm gonna say. I have a lot of notes here, but that was basically just because I wanted to have them there in case I wanted to refer back to it. But I'm ready for the message from the universe.
Let's Do it.
I'm using the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Oracle deck by Kim Krans. I've got 3 cards for everybody, so pick 1, 2, or 3. 1 is Cheetah, solar force, action, achievement, and masculine energy. The cheetah is the epitome of the solar forces at work. The sun doesn't shine onto the cheetah, it shines from inside this great creature and expands outward to brighten the universe. The energy within a cheetah personality is palatable to others, and they naturally attract an audience to bear witness to their remarkable achievements. Purpose and passion are the best fuel for a cheetah's forward momentum. So if you're lacking in those areas, reconnect to the why before you start running. When in balance, achieves anything and boundless energy. When out of balance, impatient and competitive. And to bring into balance, connect to purpose. Okay. Card 2 is the frog. Clearing, cleansing, and healing. The frog and other water element are the frog and the water element are almost inseparable. The frog spends its first months of life entirely within this healing element and then emerges to rest on land. But no matter how earthly the frog becomes, its need for cleansing and rejuvenation is regular. Frogs tend to become overworked and undernourished, so it's vital that such sensitive creatures practice self-care. This card serves as a reminder that water helps us cleanse, forgive, and release. Time to dive in. Frogs aren't meant to carry a heavy load. When in balance, clear energy and enthusiasm for life. When out of balance, depleted, running on empty. To bring into balance, lake, river, ocean, or bathhouse. And card 3, Swan. Effortless creativity, sensitive mystic, and elegant power. The swan represents heightened creativity. In Hindu mythology, the goddess Saraswati, the embodiment of language, creativity, and artistry, rides on the back of this graceful creature. The swan is ready to take us there, to the fluid realm of writing, creating, and reflecting. This potent and healing energy is not to be taken for granted or taken lightly. When the swan card appears, your soul is calling for attention, for solo time. An inner voice is waiting to be heard, an inner vision likely to be revealed. When in balance, infinite creative power. When out of balance, agitated, snippy, and lacking vision. To bring into balance, solo time and writing. Thank you, animal spirits, for visiting us today, and the universe sending us these beautiful cards and these beautiful images.
And thank you, listeners. We will be back next week with the Wheel of Fortune. So until then,
the Wheel of Fortune.
Thank you. And we love you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. The Radical Podcast is created and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music. Stay in touch with us at linktr.ee/theradicalpodnc.